Welcome back to another welcome back to another edition of 5 Minutes with InProduction Inc. And in today's we're going to talk about what is a landing zone. And when we talk about landing zone, we talk about Azure. I'm your trainer and cloud architect, future MCT and enthusiast. Val Cosentino. I want to thank you guys for joining today. And let's get to it. So what is a landing zone? Well, a landing zone is typically your environment where we can follow specific design aspects across multiple areas. When we design these principles or design these key design areas, we want to accommodate your applications. We want to enable application migration, and we also want to innovate at scale, and we also want to modernize. Your Azure Landing Zone uses subscriptions in Azure, and if you guys are already Azure certified or know a little bit about Azure, Azure uses subscriptions to scale application resources and platform resources as well. So when we talk about subscriptions for the application side, those are called application landing zones, and applications on a platform resource, they're called platform landing zones. When we look at the flow in 5 minutes, we want to start off, we want to review our landing zone requirements. It's important that we review those requirements as per documentation so that we get an understanding of what we need and why we need it. Our next step is to design our landing zone architecture. We have to, as architects or as developers, as somebody who wants to build an architect, we're not just doing the work, but we're also designing the zone architecture. And then from there, is it approved? Is the architecture approved? Yes or no? In this flow, yeah, we proceed with the configuration, or no, we go back and iterate the design based on feedback we get from our employees or from our departments or our CEOs or whoever's approval is needed in that aspect. Our landing zone architecture is scalable. We want to make sure that we meet various deployment needs. So yeah, when we do proceed with the configuration, like our resource groups and our subscription, we need to basically make sure that that's in place, and that that our infrastructure allows you to apply any configurations and controls to every subscription consistently, right? So, being able to implement security policies, which is our next step, and compliance checks is important in any company. We need to be able to deploy network and connectivity solutions, right? We need to establish monitoring and management process. We need to conduct final validation and testing. Are these tests successful? Yeah. Are we able to launch the landing zone? No. Are we able to address issues and retest for that? So we need to be able to, when we look at our architecture, there are modules that we can make it easy to deploy and modify these specific components so that as it evolves, our components and our requirements get better. When we look at the specific framework, let me make this a little bit bigger. We look at two different things, and again, we look at either the design area or we look at the organization resources, the resource organization. When we talk about the design area, what does that mean? We want to be able to illustrate relationships. Okay, in this picture, you'll see there's about 8. design areas. But again, these design areas are your Azure billing, right? You have your intra tenant, you have your IAM systems, your identity access management systems, right? And when we talk about identity, it's who it is, who um, authentication, authorization, auditing, and accounting. It's not just who we are; it's our username and password, what we're allowed to do, and what we have done so far, right? So when it comes to authentication, it's who you are before accessing any systems. Are you real? Even though this is a system even real? When we talk about authorization, we're determining what you're allowed access to, right? We're giving you the accounting, and then when we talk about the third option in AAA IM, we talk about accounting and auditing as what is of it, what have you done, right? And these are steps that we're going to have to take, right? Well, so when we're in identity and access management before after the billing aspect of it, we're approving our workflow. you know are there any notifications? Do we have to review access packages or access reviews? Is there multi-factor authentication? Do we have audit reports? you know do we need to add DevOps or apps? Do we have a subscription manager and other rules? So it's very important when we see that. We also talk about our resources, right? When we talk about resources, the architecture in this diagram shows management group hierarchy. Does it organize subscriptions, right? And you look at the different subscriptions here, noted in the yellow. Here, let me get that pen for you. And you'll see the managed subscription, identity management subscription, connectivity, landing zone, decommission, and sandbox, right? Sandbox subscription one and sandbox subscription two. So, and this is our identity management flow, right? So when we're looking at that, we need to understand, make this a little bit thicker for you guys. My arrow, my pointer here. So the subscriptions under the platform area, or management group, the platform management group, um, represents the platform landing zones, right? So remember what we talked about. We talked about, you know, the application and the resource, right? So the two different landing zone architectures. So when the subscriptions under the landing zone management group, like I said, what you see here represents the management line, uh, the management, excuse me, the management, the platform management group represents the platform landing zones, right? The subscription under the landing zone management group represents the application landing zone. So those are the two different types of landing zones that we're going to be looking at with our resources, right? So in our architecture, you'll see about 5 subscriptions in detail, 5 or 6, or let's say 5. And you could see the resources in each subscription and the policies that you apply, right? So when we talk about, um, you know, when we talk about, let me make another deck here for you guys. When we talk about platform landing zone versus application landing zone, um, it's worth explaining the function of what it does in more detail. Like I said, you have your platform landing zone, and I think I have a diagram here that I'm going to bring up for you guys so that I can talk about it. And do I have it? Give me 1 second, guys. I apologize. And once you see the diagram itself, and this is something that I took from Microsoft's website. So as you can see, the diagram here, it's denoted into a purple and a greenish yellow aspect of it. So you have your platform, right? And your platform zone is just your subscription that provides, your identity, your connectivity management. I mean, your connectivity and your management. And these are shared services, right? To the applications within the application zone. So by consolidating these, and you can see these platforms in purple. If you look at the picture here a little bit quicker, I'm like, let me see if I can zoom out of that. And let me grab my arrow here. Grab my red arrow. Grab that red here. Our red pen here. And again, this little purple area here where you have your subscription management, your management group, C, your D management group subscription, your identity subscription, your connectivity subscription, letter E. You'll see the different architectures that are involved within each of these. So you need to understand what that management group and that subscription organization is, and how we have our different branches of our tenant root group, right? Within that section there, and how it's easily divided amongst different sections and what they probably do. So, for example, you have your platform, and then your platform branches off to your management, your identity, and your connectivity. Whereas your landing zones, you have your corporate and your online. Obviously, everybody's got a corporate world in their environments, in their branches, and then you have your decommissioned and your sandbox environments, which is very, very important when we're talking about these things, right? So, again, one or more central teams will again manage these platform landing zones. Here, let me write this out for you guys, right? And when we talk about platform landing zone, right? Um, you know, in an architecture, we have our identity subscription, right? Right. Two, we have our management subscription, and then we should see that in the picture, right? And we have our connectivity. And this is how it's branched when we look at our platform landing zone. Whereas our application landing zone is just for hosting that application. So make sure you get that right. You're pre-provisioning these applications at landing zones through code, right? So you have your AIC, or you have your developers, or your DevOps, or your developers that are taking care of this kind of stuff in this environment, which allows us to assign policy control to them. So, just make sure that you understand the difference between what that is and what that does, right? So, and I'll show you, and once we get to that point, I'll show you what that looks like, right? So, when we talk about our connect management subscription and connectivity, that's our third option, right? And this triad represents um, three platform landing zones, right?